I've been pretty quiet on this whole PlayStation, Xbox, Activision Blizzard love triangle because honestly, it's really boring. And unfortunately, in my day job, I deal with a lot of these long, drawn out contracts. So I'm familiar with how long this process is going to take. I know when Xbox announced, hey, we bought Activision Blizzard, and everyone's like, oh my God, when is Call of Duty coming to Game Pass? I was like, hold up. This is probably going to be a long time coming. And here we are now into February 2023. Guess I did have to look at the calendar. And it's still going on. And is there any end in sight? I don't know. What it comes down to is Microsoft needs to win the hearts and minds of the folks to convince them that if they do, in fact, get to own all of Activision Blizzard's property, namely Call of Duty. That's the one that everybody's focusing on because it's a cash cow. If they can win the hearts and minds of people and convince everybody that Call of Duty coming to a Microsoft thing isn't a bad decision and doesn't hurt Nintendo or PlayStation too much, that's kind of open to interpretation, that, hey, it's not a bad thing, which is why you're seeing stuff like this. Yesterday, Brad Smith, who is the president of Microsoft, by the way, announced that Microsoft has been working with Nintendo, and they've now negotiated and signed a binding 10-year agreement that will bring Call of Duty to the Nintendo console. So most likely the Switch. I don't know where else it would be. The same day as Xbox with full feature and content parity. He doesn't mention the fact that it's going to run at like 8 frames per second and be 14P, not 14P, not 1440p, 14P. But hey, listen, they're committed to providing a long-term equal access to Call of Duty on other gaming platforms, bringing more choice to the players. And that's what this all really stems around. Microsoft is saying that if you give them the license to run Call of Duty, they will do it better than Call of Duty has done it in the past. Is that true? I don't know. The major point of contention, obviously, is that Call of Duty right now is available on PC and on both of the major platforms. Microsoft is saying, hey, look, we are already owning Call of Duty now, and we're giving it out to everybody. But why doesn't Sony want to play? Well, that is another point of contention. What fascinates me so much about this entire news story, though, this whole cycle, is we have seen the rise and fall of people flexing and people simultaneously cowering, depending on when the situation presents itself. So Microsoft has long argued that they would be a great curator of the Call of Duty franchise because they're gamer first and focused. They have a rich, vibrant platform. Tons of people can sign in and play Game Pass. It's so easy and so accessible. You can get it on your TV, your phone. You don't even have to have a computer. You can play it on your console. You can play it on your console that you bought like 9 years ago, that VCR that I still have upstairs. There's a lot of ways to play Game Pass. It's so accessible, so great. So there is the posturing. We're Microsoft, look at us, look how great we are. Then you get things like this, which is what really starts to blow my mind. So yesterday at a kind of review board, essentially, this press conference in Brussels, Brad Smith, again, the same guy who tweeted that announcement, makes this statement. He says that, think about it in Europe. The Sony ownership of Europe is over 80%. And globally, he thinks it's 70-30, which means out of 10 gamers, 7 are loyal to the Sony Pony Nation, and 3 are loyal to the Xbox Gamer Nation, which is crazy. Again, no mention of Nintendo. We'll get back to that in a moment. Globally, though, globally 70-30. In Japan, it's 96% of the people, which has been remarkably steady for the past 2 decades. Even in years where Sony was having problems getting their PlayStation out, they always came back stronger. And Sony has now outsold Microsoft essentially 7-3 ratio leading up to last year. All right. That is a massive, massive statement. That's a significant amount of stuff to unpack. This is where the posturing is changing now. It went from, hey, Game Pass is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Everybody can access it. Look how great it is. It's cheap, it's fun, it's easy too. But guys, we aren't selling any consoles in Japan, and we're getting our asses kicked internationally and worldwide. Domestically, internationally, globally, however you want to review it, we are losing soundly in every market. So if you give us this deal, we won't be a monopoly. Don't you feel bad for us? And I have to laugh again. I'm drawing on a lot of my personal experience in dealing with pretentious contract litigations and dealing through the repercussions of some of this stuff. And all I can think is, okay, well, today they're playing the victim card. Now, Sony is doing the same thing. I want to be very clear on that. Sony's going back and forth on woe is me, woe is the gamer, we'll be fine without them, we need them, we don't need them. Nobody wants this deal to go through except Microsoft. Nintendo is just being drug along. Nintendo has no skin in the game on the first-person shooter business, unless you count Metroid Prime. They are not the target audience for this, and I would argue that, yes, you can always make a sale on any game, on any platform. No one is buying a Nintendo Switch to play Call of Duty. It's just not happening. That console is grossly underpowered, and the portability is fun, but for most people who are into that experience, they would much rather have a nice quality experience on a real console or a PC as opposed to a Switch. If you don't believe me, go try out Overwatch 2 on your Nintendo Switch. Don't say I didn't warn you. So that whole olive branch that Microsoft just extended to say, hey, we are bringing Call of Duty to Nintendo, and we have entered in this proud era. This is posturing to show that, hey, we can do the same thing with Sony. And as a matter of fact, in that speech, Brad Smith holds up the briefcase and he goes, the contract is in this briefcase. I'm ready to sign it right now. It's got a little cross for me. It's got a little signature page for, I guess, Herman Hulst. I don't know who would sign it on Sony's behalf. To make this deal for real, let's go. What's the problem? Sony obviously not wanting to play ball, and they've been arguing, and there's been a significant amount of monopoly-esque issues in trying to sort it out. But Microsoft very clearly has shifted their defense of this radically now to play the victim. Will it pan out? I don't know. I'm not the decision maker in this. I'll be curious to see how it works out. As somebody who owns all the consoles and a computer, I don't care where Call of Duty is. I prefer to play it on Sony because I love the DualSense, but hey, I can plug my DualSense into a PC, so I'm not really sweating it there either. But it definitely has brought out this blind allegiance and this blind brand loyalty, even down to the fan level where we have no control over any of this, of people saying, oh, well, Sony really is playing the victim here and Microsoft's whatever. You see all the different opinions. Just go Google any opinion on Twitter or Reddit or Reset Era or NeoGAF or anywhere, and you'll see just the pages and pages and pages of kind of jabbing back and forth at one another, trying to solve the problem or trying to figure out, who's to blame. Of course, if I'm a Sony pony, it's Microsoft's fault. And if I'm a Microsoft guy, it's Sony's fault. Nintendo fans are like, yay. They have no idea what's going on. But I am unsurprised at this point, but I really wanted to put a video out here because to me, this is the most decisive shift I have seen in following this news story to date. What does it mean? Does it mean someone will look at this and say, hey, you know what? Sony has an 80% share of the market. Let's go ahead and give them Call of Duty. Let's give Microsoft Call of Duty because Sony's share will drop to like 60%, which, hey, that's still good enough, right? It's still better. You're still winning. I think that's the thought process that Microsoft is trying to play here. But very interesting negotiating strategy. Woe is me. My $68 billion isn't green enough. So we're going to need a little bit of boost from everybody because even though we have more money than God at this point, we still need the help because you're telling us no, and we're not allowed to spend our money the way we want to. How will this all end out? I have no idea. I think most likely it will go through, but maybe it won't. I don't know. This is a fascinating thing, and I love the interaction of politics and gaming only because I understand both sides. But I have to say that from a purely like PR perspective, everybody looks bad in this except Nintendo. Microsoft definitely is not coming out looking gold right now. Some of the stuff they're saying versus the stuff they're doing. Clearly, PlayStation coming out playing a major victim card, saying that they're going to lose their livelihood and PlayStation will dissolve as a brand without Call of Duty on the platform. So you're starting to see the worst sides of people, but that's how this game is played. The loudest voice in the room wins. The guy that does the most lobbying wins. And it's going to come down to a major, major legal decision in which some sort of ridiculous legal precedence is going to be set, which will dictate these buyouts in the future. Microsoft got lucky early on when they bought Bethesda, which blew my mind. I still remember that day vividly when I was like, what? Bethesda got bought out? They beat the whole cycle on this. And I think Sony quickly countered with their buyout of Bungie. But those were when the stakes were lower. Those were the low-hanging fruit. And not to say that Bungie and Bethesda are low-hanging fruit by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't until you're starting to pull out big money. Like Call of Duty is a global phenomenon, right? When you start talking that kind of money, $68 billion money, that raises a lot of eyebrows, which obviously is what led to everything today. But hey, Microsoft, wonderful strategy. If it works for you, my hat's off to you guys. You big sissies, you big babies. How dare they don't let us spend our $68 billion? How dare they? We'll see what happens, but I wanted to put a video out there. I'm wrapping this one up. I want to hear from you guys in the thoughts comment. I want to hear from you and your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think is going on with all of this Microsoft PlayStation stuff. Do you care? Are you over it like most of us are? Or are you somewhat fascinated like me a little bit? I'm going to vote twice that Microsoft is kind of reverting to these very interesting negotiating topics. Sound off below. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.